Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. We have been gone for a couple of weeks. Girl needed a break. I'm telling you, it's just a whole lot going on, but we are glad to be back. Thank you to the crew that's here with me tonight. You guys are so good to me. I appreciate it. And my special guest tonight is Miss Rekia Beverly, author of the award-winning children's book series, Mrs. Ashbury. Thank you for being here, Rekia.
Thank you for having me.
Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Eilers Diamonds LLC, Lee's Press, Milton McCulloch, author of Love and Emancipation, a Dante production, and of course, the Fresh Book Festival, which will be held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach, 22, 23, 24 February in the year of 2024, which is right around the corner, everybody. It's right around the corner. So if you have not registered, please register. It is at www.freshbookfestivals with an S.net. Registration is open. Early bird registration is open. So please register today. If you have any questions for Rekia, please leave them in the chat room. And this conversation is being recorded. So good evening, Rekia. Please give us a brief background.
I am Rekia Beverly. I am the author and founder of Mrs. Ashbury's World, everyone's favorite teacher. I am the gifted resource teacher for Volusia County Schools, servicing grades K through 5, elementary grades. I go in and support teachers to help enrich their learners. I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University with a bachelor's in elementary education and Nova with a master's in curriculum and instruction. And I love everything learning and loving.
And so how long were you in the classroom?
13 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
13 years.
Was it the same grade? Did you teach the same grade?
I taught primary grades. So I originally, when I became a teacher, I started off in first grade. And then within, was it my second or third year, I was put into a kindergarten and first grade combination class,
Okay.
both levels. Then I went to kindergarten, fell in love with kindergarten. Then I received my gifted endorsement and started teaching kindergarten and first grade combined gifted learners. And from there, that's when I applied, and now I am the resource teacher for gifted services.
So how is it that you were able to teach in your neighborhood? Have you always been at Chisholm? Was that just God? That had to be just God.
Yes. Right. Okay. And I prayed for Chisholm.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. I knew I wanted to be within my community. So when I graduated from New Smyrna Beach High School, I was a part of a club called F.R.E.S.H, Florida Future Educators of America. And there was an incentive going on if you were to graduate from your respective college or university. They wanted you to come back. Volusia County Schools wanted you to come back and service your community. And I did just that, and I applied, and I knew I wanted Chisholm because it's my community school.
Your community, right. Yeah.
It's right there. And I knew growing up, even though I didn't attend Chisholm, I went to Edgewater Public where my mom taught. I knew that community
needed you.
Yes. And just that old school. So when I talk to people, it's interesting because I'm a little old school and new school. So if I know that you're acting up and I see you in school, I know I can call your mom, your grandma, your aunt and say, hey, so-and-so was misbehaving. We need to handle this. So I knew I wanted that to take place, and also to give those kids kudos too when I saw them out and about. So it was an equal balance there with that. Yeah, I prayed for Chisholm. I did. I wanted to teach right there.
And we went through the whole process of recreating Chisholm, which I thought was amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So I was a part of that rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, it was just wonderful. So I wondered how that happened because it normally does not happen.
It doesn't.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I prayed for Chisholm, and it just so happened when I interviewed, there was a first grade and a fifth grade position open, and my interview was first, and he asked me which grade level I wanted to teach, and I told him first, so I was able to teach first grade
That's good.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look at those things as being God engineered
Oh,
because
yeah.
you can't build something like that, a
No.
13-year career in your community. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, blessings to you. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you, thank you.
So let's talk about your journey. I don't remember when we met when we were in high school. Were you in high school or your first year of
I think
college?
it was I think I was out of high school. I think
Mhm.
it was once I graduated
Yeah.
from FAMU,
Yeah.
I think.
I don't
It's all
remember.
a blur.
It's
It's so
been a
hard.
long time. But tell us about your journey, and what was the pivotal moment that you knew that it was going to be a children's book
Mhm.
and it was going to be a series. Tell us how that happened. And yeah, tell us how that
So
happened.
it happened because of my students. Every year, um, teachers around the country are preparing for school. So we're getting our classrooms ready and everything. And I was reading a back to school book to my kids on the carpet, and I don't remember which first day of school book it was, what back to school book it was. But in that moment, I had an aha moment. I said, wait. Every book that I've read is about a student's perspective for the first day of school. I was like, wait, teachers have feelings too. I said, teachers have a first day of school. I wanted to write from the teacher's perspective. And that's what started it. That moment, I remember we were sitting there, the kids were on the carpet, and I'm reading this book. I'm like, no. We have feelings. And I was getting to that point with kids because growing up and within my college courses, we were told, you go in firm, you don't show the kids that you have emotion, you're strict. And I'm like, I didn't want to portray that to my kid.
Yeah.
Um, and throughout the book, like I cry in my classroom because you see these kids and they're so tough or they've taught to be tough. And I'm like, I want them to be empathetic. I don't want them to be so cold that they don't love their neighbor or know how to get along. And so that's what started that. I didn't want to be going in there strict and having all these rules. I wanted us to be a community. And I knew that if we could be a community, if I could be a community with their parents, I knew that they would be lifelong learners. If I could just get those parents on board with
Right.
me and playing, we're here for one reason, and that's to make your kid the best kid possible, that he or she could be, so that's where it started. And how the series continued. The first book is Mrs. Ashbury's first day of school, and I just wrote that book for kicks and giggles. I had so many problems with it getting it published, and I thought I was done. But once the kids found out that I had written a book, they were asking, when's the next book coming? When are you going? I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that. And and they really got me going. They were my inspiration. So I'm able to write because of them. And even still, there's still multiple ways and so many ideas that I have that I just need to get on paper.
So tell us about that quandary you were in the first time you tried to publish a book.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, tell us because everybody believes that when they see an author like me or an author like you, that for some reason we have not gone through any kind of pitfalls. No, they don't understand that we've been in this game for a while. And so
Yeah.
tell us about your first, because it got better, right? After your
Yes.
first book. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. So the first book, I reached out to a college friend of mine. He was an an amazing artist. And I thought, I was like, you know what? Do you mind illustrating my book? So what people don't realize is anyone can illustrate. That's not where the problem comes into play. It's when it's time to upload the book into the different formats and different publishing companies. And that's where I ran into a problem. I didn't know anything about a layout. I just thought we could just upload these illustrations with some words on the page and ta-da, a book would appear. Uh, because in my mind, I'm like, everything is easy. I know we can get it done. So with that being said, we went to upload the illustrations, and then that's when I learned about margins. And the interesting thing was I knew other people who had written a book.
Mm-hmm.
It was children's book, that format that no one around
Oh,
really could help me with. So that was another issue. And I remember
because we
going.
write novels, no pictures, it just works.
Right,
Right.
right.
So
Now,
yeah,
when people ask me,
yeah,
how can I write a novel or a cookbook or something like that? I know who to direct them to. That's
right,
easy.
right.
But I had to learn and work out the kinks on my end to help people now write children's books and do all that. But I went to upload into Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and nothing. I mean, there were red error messages, the lines, the margins, you don't fit this, the graphics aren't
Clear enough.
the image, yeah, the resolution. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I remember just crying. I was like, this is not going to happen. Ended up reaching out to someone, got connected with the right person. We finally got a book out. Um, it's my first project. It's a teaching lesson. I love the story behind it. It's still just as important as all the other stories.
Absolutely, yeah.
The illustrations are just different, and it's a different artistic style too. So I love when I talk to different kids and future authors. I tell them, you got to pick your illustrator, and either if you want a series, stick with this type of design, and if not, be prepared to look at something different. You'll be in my situation if that.
And so how many renditions did you get before you found Mrs. Ashbury that looked that you wanted?
Just that one. So
Really?
this is
Okay.
and this the one that you see in the background, she's stuck. And I still love her, so I don't
Yeah,
say
oh,
much.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. One of
yeah.
the questions I asked you was why she had to be a MRS and not a Ms. Was there something behind that?
There wasn't
Oh,
at the time. It was very random, but now after looking at that question, I was like, oh, you know what? It goes better with songs. So when
okay.
I'm writing songs, that it's a little beat that goes with it. Like um one of
Yeah, I
the
think one of the
examples.
questions I ask you is if you're going to do another song because the song is
Oh,
really, yeah, yeah,
oh
the song is really
yeah,
cute. That's
yeah. So
okay.
it's like, yeah,
Uh,
ABC with, yeah, Mrs. Ashbury. So it now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, it works. Instead of Miss Ashbury, it wouldn't catch a certain beat, in my opinion. But I'm
and
not a
you
music.
never really talk about her being married in any of
No,
the books,
no.
and the children never ask her about
And that's almost a lost. I don't know if people emphasize it as much anymore.
that. Okay.
It's if you were to walk into a school setting, it's going to be miss all the time, unless there's a lesson taught to explain why it's MRS,
Hmm.
or MS
Maybe
or MISS.
maybe
So
that's a book.
it could be.
Well, you have Miss,
Hmm.
Ms., Mrs.,
Mrs. Hmm.
Master,
Yes,
Mister,
yes.
right? And it could be like an etiquette type of thing, here's where the fork goes, spoon goes, and this is why. But I just wondered at that time, since you were a Ms.
Hmm.
at the time you wrote it, why you
There
picked
was
F.R.E.S.H.
no rhyme or reason.
No rhyme or reason. So I
Eh,
can't, because when me as a writer, you can develop a story and it can take you 6 pages, right? Because you're an adult writer. But how do you write so succinctly? I mean, you have a picture, and the picture has to be, and what are you saying? Maybe 40 words a page, less,
mm, and
less
it
than
did.
40.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so, oof, I don't know that I could do that. It has, you look at a picture and then succinctly say what's going on in 40 words or less. Because if you don't, you lose the child, right?
And you have to be very, very careful. And I know there are some amazing children's book authors out there. At the same time, they're not around children either.
Right.
So you really need to know your audience. And with that being said, short and sweet, your illustrations have to pop. And there was something that I learned throughout just attending workshops, that there's 3 ways to read a book. So you can read the pictures, you can retell the story, or you can actually read the words. And so I make sure I'm very hands-on in that process, even though I'm not the illustrator. I will sketch everything out where I want everything to be. The colors really don't bother me so much unless it's specific. I like to incorporate FAMU in a lot of my illustrations. So unless it's something that I'm that I really want the color change, I'll make sure that happens. But for the most part, I do the sketches, I upload, and I really want the illustrations to tell a story too, because I don't want any child to have the excuse to say that they can't read, because you can.
Well, if you're a beginning reader, you kind of make up your
Correct.
own story, right? And
Correct.
then,
And you
right,
want it to be as parallel as
right,
possible
exactly,
to the words. Mm-hmm.
right. I remember teaching my son, and I'd read the page, and then he'd say, "Well, this is what I think is," because he looked at the picture and decide that
Correct.
if the cat
Correct.
is up in the tree, the cat is in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So they make up their own. But your illustration has to be as succinct,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for the child to even get it. Anyway, I take my hat off to you because I just
And
don't
it'll
know
help
that I
with
could do
writing.
that.
Even the writing process, when it's
Right.
time for kids or our beginning writers, they're able to take those images and to be able to label them, and it's a whole lesson in itself. But yeah,
So you say you don't worry about colors, but I have not seen you change Mrs. Ashbury's colors in
she
13
is
years.
set, yes. And that's no, I cannot take credit for her
Okay.
colors.
Okay.
That was my original illustrator, and yellow is my favorite color, so we'll stick with it. Now, in real life, I do not like wearing yellow. But it's still my favorite color. I add it to everything that I do. It just brightens up things. So I do not take credit for the heart frame glasses or the color of her dress. That was my original illustrator.
Wow. I mean, and that has really just, we're going to talk about that later, but that has just really taken off. How do you, how do you as a teacher, without seeming biased, right? Bring the books to your classroom. Is that something that you're able to do or you're not able to do?
Originally, I kind of just let it roll on its own. I didn't want it to be a big to do. I just wanted people to find out naturally. But then I got to the point where I wanted it to be a teaching tool. So anything that you put your mind to, this is a result of it. And so I did start displaying my books at Meet the Teacher nights. When I go out now to visit other teachers, I have my cup with me, and all my stickers are on there. And come to find out, there are a lot of teachers that want to write books. So from that, I need to be more open with it. And now I'm just I don't mind talking to people about it at all, and it's grown on people, and like I tell them, I was like, I'm here to help. So if you have questions, like of course we can't talk about it there. I'm there to do a job, but I can talk about it all day if you call me after hours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So there are 8 books in this series now, or how many?
So there are 5 books in the series, an additional 5 or 6
6
as resource
sources,
materials,
period.
activity books,
Right.
um, affirmation books, affirmation journals, things like that. Yeah, but there's
And
5 in the series
and
altogether.
tell us about the first 5.
The first 5,
Mrs. Ashbury, of course, first day of school,
first
right?
day of school, Mrs. Ashbury's birthday.
All
That
right.
came about when I would celebrate my birthday with my students if it fell during a class day and not like a holiday, because usually my birthday falls on spring break. But if it did fall during a regular school day, I would bring cupcakes and celebrate with them. Mrs. Ashbury's Hero talks about childhood cancer. And I always like to tell people that Nathan is cancer free and in the seventh, eighth grade now, running cross country. Then we have Mrs. Ashbury teaches Black history, so that it changed a little bit. And I wanted to be a teaching book. And then Mrs. Ashbury to the rescue.
You.
I think that was 5.
Yeah.
And that was dedicated to which I call my COVID group of kids. We went back to school together, and we were the first class quarantine, so that was a teachable moment in itself. We were kind of the example when it was time to teach virtually from home.
Right.
The parents were all in support. I was like, we'll just get through it, we'll get through it. And so we were out in the playground after we were quarantined. We went back to school. We were out in the playground, and a bug flew into one of the students' hair. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't like bugs. What are y'all doing? What do y'all get into out there? Get out, leave the bugs alone. And so they were all laughing at me because I was like, y'all leave the bugs alone. And sure enough, I said, oh my goodness, this may make a great book. And the kids were like, you should write it. You should write it. And I didn't tell them originally that I had started writing it. I surprised them with not the finished copy, but just the draft. They were like, we love it. Are you going to publish it? And I told them I would, and it's dedicated to them, and all their names are in that book.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Tell me when you decided to do merchandise, because that is a whole nother level of, yeah.
With me, and that and that the book journey too, I would always have these ideas. I would get my hands into everything. It's almost a challenge to me just to see if I can do something.
Right.
So at one point, I was pressing shirts and designing shirts and doing sublimation printing just to see if I could figure it out. And that's what happened with the merchandise. I just wanted to see if I could design something and what it would look like. And I started playing around with different things, and print. I would send it off to the manufacturer. It'll come back because I would always test it out first. I'm like, this turned out really cool. And then I started learning how to do the websites and uploading and all of that, and different codes and everything.
So
And
you don't sleep much.
I do.
Oh,
I do. Like right now, like this is late for me because usually
okay.
I'm
You're in
sleeping.
bed.
I was like, Miss Donna better know that I love her because usually I'm sleeping.
And I'm a night owl. So I'm up until like 1:30 in the morning almost every day. So yeah, I forget about people who have good sense who go to bed.
But I can turn it off during holidays. So
Mm.
my body will adjust and know that I can sleep in, I can stay awake, and yeah. Um,
So this is not one of the questions that I ask you in what you received, but what was it like when you saw your first little person dressed like?
oh,
I
everything.
know,
I
I
felt like it was
know.
a full circle moment, and it's getting better because
That little girl surprised you at school, right? Is that how that happened? I forgot.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I
Mhm.
was not expect. I never ex- How can I put? I never expect people to support me. That's an extra, right?
Right, right,
So to see, it wasn't just one, like there was one little girl and then multiple. I'm
right,
like,
exactly.
oh my God. And it's ever evolving because there are adults out there, there are teachers now. Um, they're pumpkins. So there's a big thing in the classroom where people can decorate pumpkins as um, as a research project, as a book report, and you decorate a pumpkin. I had 2 pumpkins this year. And I just said it about 3 weeks ago. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't, no one's done a Mrs. Ashbury pumpkin, So I'm always like, what's next? What's next? And lo and behold, someone did a pumpkin and then another pumpkin came out. I was like, oh my goodness,
I
that's
know.
pretty cool. Because it's compared to your big leaguers out there,
Right,
scholastic books,
right,
people doing
right.
those pumpkins, and like I'm a local author and people are doing pumpkins on me. So that's a big deal to me.
It was I mean, it is and it was a big deal for a young lady, first of all, to convince her, because I'm sure maybe the mother had something to do with it or her father, but I'm sure she had to have some kind of initiative to
Mm-hmm.
want to dress up like Mrs. Ashbury. So I just I when I remember that, it was a couple of years ago, but I do remember the day it happened. So I
And
am
then from that
mhm.
kind of started people wanting just one piece. They were like, when are you going to come out with it? So I was like, well, give me some time. And I went on and looked for a dress vendor for an adult dress and for a child's dress. And I had to play around with those margins again and the resolution. But those dresses are beautiful. They turned out really nice. Yeah.
T-shirts are good too now, though. You know.
Yeah, the t-shirts
Yeah,
are
a
doing
lot
great.
of adults wear the t-shirts,
Yeah.
and so anyway, I'm so proud of you and the progression that has happened in Mrs. Ashbury's life. So tell me about this calendar idea. I just think that that's the best fundraising idea ever. And I don't want anybody to copy you on it. I just want people to understand that there are, if you think outside of the box, there's really a way to get things done. So how did that happen for you?
And to be honest, it's something that a lot of people are using.
Okay.
I actually got it from Pop Warner from football, from the football teams.
Yeah.
Um, that's one way that I've raised funds just for merchandise. Like when I go to different schools and kids are like, "Can I have a sticker or a button?" I'm thinking, this stuff
Costs
costs.
money.
Have the community support to just
Right.
give a shirt to a kid who I can just see, is really interested and can't afford it. That helps me because I've got other bills like the website and just
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah.
so to have the extra definitely helps. And people see that, I'm out in the community doing things and giving back. So that definitely helps a lot. But that calendar idea, I cannot take credit for it. I initially saw it through Pop Warner
Mhm.
football. I use the calendar for fundraisers. I also do tiered system. So if you donate $10, you'll get the book. If you donate $200, your name can be featured in the book and in the illustration. So I offer different packages to raise money for those for the books. Yeah.
What's next for Mrs. Ashbury? What's the next book? Have you thought about it?
I have. There are actually two in the series that I want to do, but I am working on. I need to finish it. Actually, there's two more. So the
Uh,
latest book is a short vowel book. and it's not a part of the series. It's just an easy reader for beginning readers. And those I'm able to just crank out because I don't need illustrations for that. I can use what I already have through my book series. I want to do a Mrs. Ashbury holiday book. I wanted to have it done by this holiday season. I'm very excited about the little things that you'll see with Mrs. Ashbury in that. So I know we talked about yellow and pink, but with the holiday book, some things may change.
Change, right,
I'm
right,
not
right.
sure yet. In my mind, I see it changing just for this particular book, but I'm not sure yet. So that's in the series. And then I want to do a long vowel little book, mini book as a resource. So, and then I have a teacher book. Everyone says, how can you be everyone's favorite teacher and you don't have a
A
book
teacher's
yet
book.
for teachers? I said, okay, I will get on that. Like, I will get on that. You will have
Yeah.
that by
Yeah.
next week.
I mean, people don't understand what it takes. They really just don't understand. And when I hear people say, "Oh, everybody's an author," everybody is not,
No,
because it takes away from your personal time. It takes away from your personal time. I mean, because you cannot, once you're in a zone and you get started, then everything kind of just stops,
every
right? Everybody, you know. Um, so I know when I'm not answering my phone, they say, "Oh, she's not okay." You know, so everybody texts me, and I'm like, "Well, do you know that if you know that I'm, if you know that
just
I'm
leave
writing,
me
text
alone."
is, you know."
And
But people, yeah,
the
yeah,
creativity
yeah,
and
yeah. You have
you
to
got to
stay in the zone.
refuel. There's so much, and that's probably why I haven't looked at
Yeah.
anything lately.
So how important is it
I'm
to
just
have your family
I need a
involved?
holiday.
Yeah, I took 2 weeks off because it just needed. But
Yeah,
how important is it that your family is so involved and so have they always been, your drum majors, or did your mother look at you and say, "Are you crazy?"
they've always every idea. They're like, okay, she's got something else. And my mom is so funny because she'll get on the phone and call my grandma and her sister. Rekia's doing something else. They're like, and sometimes my mom's just like, well, she's over there writing something or gone to do something, and I don't know. And I'm like, and they never know what's going to come of it until they
Right,
see it.
right.
Sometimes my aunt will call from up north and say, Rekia just posted something. Did you know about this? And my mom's like,
They're
no,
telling on
where
you.
did she work on that? Where did she do that?
They're
I'm
telling on you over the internet.
like, I told y'all I'm
Yeah,
working. Y'all
yeah.
think I'm just playing all the time.
So your parents aren't real computer people. They're just not online and all that kind of stuff. They just don't. Yeah, yeah. They just.
I tried to keep my mom up to date. I was like, Mom, you will not be like everyone else. I'm going to keep you up to date with everything. So I try to teach her how. She does a really good job, though. I'm proud of her. But my dad has no clue.
No,
He's
I do know your father, and he has never really wanted to be involved in the
he's
in computers and the internet thing. And so, if you were to look in the mirror today and see the 20-year-old Rekia, what would you say to her?
oh my word. I'm getting older. 20-year-old Rakia. One thing
You
about
were in your first year in college, or second. I don't know
hmm
what age you went up, but let's say
yeah.
you were in your second year in college.
hmm One thing about me, and I have to give credit to my parents. I've always and not even my parents, the community. So we always had opportunities for us to do different things. And um Miss Doll from the youth center.
Oh, Miss Doll.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Haven't
That
heard that word
creative,
yet.
she saw it, right?
Yeah,
Because my
right.
mom's like, I don't know where she gets it from. And so Ms. Dahl would send me to Harris House and we would do different art projects and just tap into that. So it was a community effort. My church. So doing youth sermons, leading praise dances, creating songs for the choir, all these different things. It really takes the village, right? And so growing up, it was just always, we were free kind of to do, if we were safe, we were free to kind of explore different things and different avenues, and my cousins too, because we all grew up together. So even in college, like, it was, I would go out and see if I liked the gospel choir or go to a community service. And that's when I fell in love with community service, was at college. I was like, what is this community service thing? Not knowing that my grandma would have me going to the nursing home, and I didn't know that that
Right.
was community service
Right.
at the time.
At
Right? We're
that
going to
time.
visit the sick and
Right.
shut in. Okay. So that was community service. So it
Right.
just, I've always been that one to just try something and learn from it. I was like, oh, that did not work out. Don't do that again.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes I'll push the envelope. Um, so I would always had idea. I mean, we just, and then my girlfriends,
I
thank
mean,
thank God
would
for
you
them.
tell the 20-year-old Rekia to just relax? It's going to happen,
Yeah,
or
just trust the process,
yeah,
go with the flow,
yeah,
go
yeah.
with the flow. Even
Um,
now, I'm just like,
even
I don't
now,
know what, I don't know. I don't know. Just ride the wave. See what happens.
would you consider writing in another genre?
Hmm.
Just asking, like a steamy principal novel.
That could be interesting. You're gonna try to cross me over to your world.
No, no, it could be romance. There's a difference between
It
romance and
could,
erotica, but
and I can see that
yeah,
because, okay, I watch a lot of
falling
Hallmark.
in love with the resource officer or something.
Hallmark, I love Hallmark movies,
Right.
so it's there. I don't know. We'll see. How about I write a few pages and I'll let you read over it and see what you
I
think.
mean, I don't, I can't see myself writing anything else, but our friend Keith Kareem Williams, of course, he writes in
Oh,
every genre,
everything,
right?
everything.
And I just wondered if you ever even thought about writing in another genre. Okay.
I haven't, but and it's funny you ask that, because for me to write the children's books, I write because I've experienced it.
Right.
So for love and romance, I've experienced that, so
Right.
it can be
Exactly.
written.
Right.
Yeah.
And I even thought about the young man who had cancer that you wrote about, years
Hmm.
ago, maybe developing his character as a grown man and, giving that some credence as to how you, when you're little and have that kind of, childhood
Yeah.
diabetes or whatever, and you have to grow up with that and
Mhm.
then always be aware in the back of your mind that something could trigger it, right?
Right.
Anyway, I just if you had ever thought
No, and
about,
people are, yeah. You never know. You're planting a seed right now,
right?
so.
Well, I'm just a nice principal who falls in love, because our principals are always
Oh, that's
looked at as
sweet.
being the principal, right? And so they never really fall in love or anything. They come to school, they do what they're supposed to
Yeah.
do, and they go home, right? Especially melanated principals don't seem to
Mhm.
have a love story. So anyway, I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw that out there.
Devote their whole
You
time
can
to
do
their
what you want
career.
with it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Their whole life is revolved around just making sure that the school is succinct. So I know you won't be able to spend a lot of time at the Freshbook Festival this year because your schedule is crazy. But what are some of the things you learned by participating in the last 7 years, 8,
I know.
9,
Oh, I
10?
don't talk about it. I'm like, how
I
are
don't
they
know how many
doing
years
that?
it's been. It's been a long time.
I know, and it's been such a wonderful experience. It's a family reunion.
Right,
So my plan is to attend the film festival and to pop in that Friday. And then
right.
Saturday I'll be
At your
working
festival.
and doing
Mm-hmm.
my other
Mm-hmm.
duties.
But what would you say for a first time author? I mean, everybody wants to sell books, but
Hmm.
would you kind of just explain to them that it's not all about what you sell, but who you meet and who you collaborate with. And
Exactly right. The lifelong friendships made,
yeah,
um, like we talked about Keith, you're gonna make these connections, and then you're gonna and Mama Tony, you're gonna see these people and make these connections online. And for example, with Mama Tony, I mean, she reads books aloud. So
right.
she's read a few of my books, which leads to, I mean, you just can't expect that
Mhm.
sale to happen in that one moment.
Right.
You let it grow and nurture, and you have to be present in the moment. So if people are up there on stage, and you should be taking tips if it's something that you're not comfortable with your stage presence, and you see someone up there rocking the stage, pull them to the side afterwards. Everyone's so friendly and willing to give of their time and
Knowledge.
information,
Hmm.
and we're all in the same place to do it. It's not like we're out in the grocery store talking about it. No, it's a book festival. This is the time to talk about books, and the process of writing. And then we have Angie B and the voiceovers. I mean, you put so many people in place for us, and sometimes you don't even know the power that's in the room
Right.
until you go and mingle with everyone.
Right.
I know there was one time they were like, Rekia's never at her table. No, I'm going around and talking to people.
You know, people like Troy Johnson who show up every year.
Yeah.
He is, you know, he's a powerhouse in the industry, right?
And then Booker T.
And Booker T. Madison. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I just featured him for my teacher session. So you just, it's the connections. Go around and talk to people. Um, bring your notepad, your notebook, bring your phones, take pictures of their banners, look at their signage, get so many ideas, figure out how people fundraise, and then the interview panels, because everyone's asked a different question. So you're going to learn something different from each person. The
Right.
smaller group sessions, yeah, it's a family when it's all done. When it's all done, you're gonna make
And, you
some.
know, the thing I tell most young authors, I said, listen, you can't pay to be able to call Booker T. Madison up and just say, would you do? You don't have that kind of money. You know what I mean? Unless you build that kind of relationship, right? Angie Jones, who's a ghostwriter. I mean,
Yes,
Mama
yes.
Tony,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, you just cannot they cannot understand how important it is to build that collaboration.
And you
It
need to keep
means
coming
everything.
back. Just
And
don't
you,
come that one time. Come back year after year.
yeah.
It's worth it. It's worth it. And I've
I'm,
been trying
mhm.
to recruit people to be a vendor,
Oh,
and just
yeah.
connect them with different people. Your illustrator. I mean, just everything.
There's
Everything.
everything. So
Hmm.
thank you for that. So I
Yeah.
won't keep you much longer because I know you it's
Oh,
past
it's
your
okay.
bedtime. So tell everybody how the audience how to get in contact with you. How do you get your books? What's your website?
Awesome. Yeah. So you can find me on all social media platforms. So
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. What are the others? Twitter, X,
Twitter,
whatever it's
X,
called
yeah.
now. Um, at Mrs. Ashbury's World, you can go on Amazon, find all the books on the series, because I worked very hard on getting the not just the 5 in the series, but the additional resource books. They are now on Amazon, and I did that by myself.
Uh,
Whoop,
uh,
whoop.
uh.
Mrs. Ashbury's World, you can search that too, or you can type in Rekia Beverly, and find me. And on my website, mrsashburysworld.com. Forgot about that.
Mrs. Ashbury's song, you have to click it. It's
Yes, the
on the
song is
last
on
thing.
there. And that's on iTunes. So
Yes, on iTunes. So, is there anything that we didn't discuss that you would like people to know before we go? I just have one more question for you. So,
I think that's about it.
yeah,
That's my journey in a nutshell. If you
yeah,
give me another hour, I could talk more, but
right. Let me say this: if you had it to do again, what would you do different, if anything? or the journey was exactly the way you wanted it to go?
There are times where I wish I would have done my research at the very beginning. Like I said before, I'm just very free and just would have my hand in everything. I really wish I would have taken the time. I know that my first book is a teachable moment with the book character being different. I do struggle with going back and redesigning and having everything match in the series. And my friends are like, just keep going forward, keep going
Yeah,
forward.
because it all, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I struggle with. I'll just have to deal with it because I don't think I'm going to go back. But I still in the back of my mind, if I could do it over, since you asked if I could, that would be something that I would do over. Um, Everything else, a-okay. Like I'm glad I self-published. I did do my research when it was time to look at different publishing companies, the major publishing companies. I was very concerned with them changing my voice and my book
Mm-hmm.
character. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that I stuck with self-publishing.
And we ask all of our guests to give us a pearl of wisdom before they go. So we'll have one from you now.
It's my favorite, my motto. I use it everywhere, and that's to keep loving and learning.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay,
It's
audience, you
simple.
heard it from the Mrs. Ashbury's world, everyone's favorite teacher, Rekia. I just, I just marvel at the young woman that I met years ago. And I remember you coming to me, and I thought, the world is open to you, honey. Just do it. Just don't let anybody discourage you. Just do it, right? And I'm glad that you decided to jump off the bridge. And that's what you have to do. You just
You
have to
do.
you
You
have
do.
to free
Start
fall because
somewhere.
if you
Yeah.
think about it, you will never do it. You just will
Ever.
never do
You'd be scared what people
it.
say, bad
Say,
reviews.
right? Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
So,
mine. I don't care what
right?
anyone says.
So thank you. Give it to us again, your quote.
Thank you. Keep loving and learning.
Keep loving and learning. And to our audience, when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. Thank you, Rekia. I'll see you soon. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.